Hi, everybody. Um, I'm sorry, there's nowhere to go except here and now. And it's my pleasure to speak to you this week. You know, when I agree to do these talks, I start thinking about what I'm going to say, and it doesn't stop until I actually do the talk. And I really, at this point, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I have an outline here. But my prayer is that anything that comes through me is of benefit to you. Because as our beloved Reverend Patrick used to say, what you take with you is what's within you now. And if I could say anything to help you in the positive transformation of your thinking, then you can experience more joy in your life by your own understanding. So, you know, I understand things from my level, and you understand things from your level, and we meet in the spirit. And the spirit, as we have said, is spirit of love, joy, peace. And so I'm going to talk about finances, but in that light, in the light of the science of mind, rather than in the light of my personal understanding, which I find very questionable. So the monthly theme and a yearly theme is living everyday wonder, finances. And when I first heard that the yearly theme was living everyday wonder, I could see right away the duality of my mind there, because I'm not necessarily able to see everyday wonder. I very often see everyday wonder how I'm going to get what I need. But, you know, the wisdom of the spirit is here, and that I'm convinced of. So if I can access that by my practice, that's what I'll do. And so this talk is based on a spiritual mind treatment, and I just want to look at the anatomy of a spiritual mind treatment and how we can apply that, like Gary said last week, uh, to any topic. Finances is just one of them. And it's interesting that I forget what Nild said. I don't know if it's Diwali, which is the festival of lights, but the beginning of the Hindu financial year. That's the first time I've heard that. So, one sentence affirmation for this week: I free my mind to be an open conduit of good. That's an affirmation and an intention. And the monthly theme: finances can be an area of immense joy and immense struggle. This month, we will begin with an awareness of the infinite source from which all flows, and follow that flow through the human experience, both personally for the individual and then out into the world. And if you haven't heard, the intention of the Centers for Spiritual Living is to be the agency of a world that works for everyone. You know, so the thinking that we do is thinking for a world of unity, a world of joy, a world of peace, a world where everybody has what they need, and there's a true justice and a true balance in what we do and what we think. Now, today's topic, summary of today's topic: so much of our trauma around money is based in myths and old stinking thinking and false beliefs. Let's apply everyday wonder and compassionate curiosity to those beliefs and set ourselves free. I like that, compassionate curiosity. And, you know, what I've learned is like not to be too serious. It's like a major thing that I've learned is I tend to be overly serious about things, and that doesn't get me where I want to go. I want to remain lighthearted, open, you know, willing to be receptive to what's going on around me. And I think you probably agree that we live in a time where there's a lot of this teaching about mindfulness. You know, Eckhart Tolle says he doesn't use the word mindfulness because it implies being full. But mindfulness to me implies being aware of what's going on around me without too much thinking, too much seriousness, being present, practicing the presence of the attentive mind, the open mind. So I have some things I want to use for the same one that Gary used last week, our teaching symbol, but I had some other things. The first one, I have a picture of what's called the emotional guidance system. So let me pull that up. My display here doesn't have what it has on my iPad. So I'm looking at a whole new way. Okay, I see where these things are. Here's the one I want. Okay, so this is called the emotional guidance scale. And where we are at any time is what mindfulness is about. Being aware of where we are on the scale. And then knowing that with use of affirmation, spiritual mind treatment, we can go in the direction of joy, which is number one, the top in light green there: joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation. So that's the high end of this energy scale. And boy, if I could stay there all the time, that would be wonderful. But the learning of how to remain as much as possible in that joy, in that love, freedom, knowledge, requires that I see where I am on the scale. And we can also learn to help others. There's a number of us here that are actually in the business of helping others move on this scale. So, you can pick anywhere you want to be. If I'm angry, the next higher vibration is discouragement. Number 17 is anger. Number 16 is discouragement. And I don't know, blame doesn't seem that great, but it might be better than anger. So you can see that as my energy begins to balance itself, if I can relax and be at peace, I can find contentment, which is where the vibration seems to be the least stressful, right around contentment. You don't want to be bored, but boredom is a lot better than some of the more powerful negative ones. So contentment, is a hopeful way of becoming optimistic, positive, even enthusiastic. So now my day is beginning to take shape in a direction I want it to go. Like any day I wake up, beginning with meditation, I want my day to be peaceful, prosperous. I want fun. I want lightheartedness. I want to be helpful to others. All the things that we were taught as children to be is the possibility of every day, And with finances, I can be positive for sure, but I have to take action. So the actions that I take are the best ones that I can come up with to meet the needs that appear to me. So each one of us has our own way of dealing with the current circumstance. And so if we do a spiritual mind treatment for the current situation that you find yourself in, that I find myself in, we begin by recognizing the source. And the source is the spirit. So in spiritual mind treatment, we go directly to where the answer is in the beginning. We recognize God. So if I recognize God, I have that feeling, that intuition that there is a spirit present that has the answer I'm looking for. And as I feel that on that guidance scale, that joy, that's really where the power begins, because that spirit is 24/7, the very basis of the life I'm here with. And so if I can accept that, I can begin to feel that power. And step one in a spiritual mind treatment is really the answer to the whole thing. Because what flows out of step one is going to be the answer that's already there in the beginning. So I unify whatever understanding I have with that spirit, that source. And in that unification is really the meditation of life. It's really where the power is. It's like going to the well. Jesus told the woman in Samaria that if she had asked for it, he would have drawn her infinite water from the well. But he asked her for a drink, and you know the story. If you don't, we can talk about that later. But that's what we do. We go where the answer is, and we open ourselves to it, and it's already present. It's already done. And this is the miracle, the miraculous potential of the spirit that we bring into it by our intention, by our openness, by our wanting it. And so step one and two, step two is the unification with the spirit so that I and the Father are one. And this really is the whole business of spirituality, is finding this oneness and then allowing it to come through. So in step three, which each of us can now accept for ourselves, what do you want your finances to look like? And that miraculous result is what we take away with us today. So we've now set a goal that the spirit already knows is possible. And we've made a what's called a mental equivalent of what we want from spirit, that spirit already knows we have. And so in this awakening process, in this spiritual mind treatment, we become aware of our good progressively. And Reverend Patrick calls that living on, what does he call it? An ascending scale, living on an ascending scale of understanding. And so that's what we celebrate as a spiritual community. Each of us doing this practice and bringing our results to community is really where the power is. That's really where the love lives in this community. And I look forward to the time when we're meeting in person more often, although right now it's a little bit of an effort to bring all this stuff once a month and to show up. But thanks everybody that came last week. So spiritual mind treatment, the 3 steps, once we have the realization, recognition, unification, realization, now we thank the spirit because that's the truth. The truth of the spirit is in the gratitude, and that's a very high vibration that's also attractive. So by law of attraction, you're drawing this vision that's been given to yourself. And to release it now is to free the mind. And so the process is, what did St. Paul say? Pray ceaselessly, right? And so to me, spiritual mind treatment and prayer activity like this is the best use of the mind. Anyway, let's look at the next graphic. Now there's, at the back of Ernest Holmes' book, textbook, The Science of Mind, and was The Science of Mind and Spirit, there are 6 graphics. And what I wanted, I had them all lined out in my album called Science of Mind, but that doesn't show up here when I choose these. Okay, so this is chart number 3. This is our teaching symbol that came through Ernest Holmes. And at the top is universal conscious mind or spirit. And that's, Christ consciousness. The circle itself represents the self with a capital S, the I am or God, whatever word you like to use, universal conscious mind or spirit at the top. And then it has this contemplator reflector and the descent of the spirit from the top. Now, that I don't really understand. I do understand that the spirit is miraculous in its nature, and that the descent of spirit doesn't descend, spirit is absolute and doesn't know up or down. Spirit is just absolutely here, 100% powerful, never diminishing, never changing. But it has the ability through us, through our agency as individual or individuated spirit, to particularize results in the manifested, which is the universe, the plane, planet, or dimension that you're on, which here the earth, physical, and down it says unconscious form. So we know that a rock is unconscious and it is a form, but it is also a projection of the spirit. So somehow it is in the totality of spirit. But what we do, my understanding of it is that in this middle layer, let me see if I can, in this middle layer, we have subjective mind, which is soul, mind or soul over here, but also the word that gets used most often is ego. And the ego is a sense of being a separate self. And this is where we make our mistakes. This is where lack or lack of abundance appears. It doesn't appear in the spirit. It appears in our understanding of the spirit as something other than spirit. So I just want to read, first of all, ego is not a word that Ernest Holmes uses. Ego is a word that's been changed since the time of Ernest Holmes' writing, but generally represents something not desirable. Okay, so I just want to read from The Science of Mind the reason why Ernest Holmes never used this word, because he considered it the I am of the Bible, the Christ, the perfect idea of God. In metaphysical terms, the ego represents the real consciousness of man. In psychology, it carries a slight variation of interpretation, implying an organization or system of mental states. In this textbook, we frequently use it merely to convey the thought of the inner man, the real self. So that the use of ego in Ernest Holmes' time is not what it is today. But we recognize that this limited self, this thought-made self, if I can use Eckhart Tolle's words, tries to deal with the physical world from a limited perspective, right? And that's where we have frustration. That's where we have lack. That's where we have the lower end of the guidance scale that we looked at earlier. So, if we're feeling limitation, we're feeling lower energy form. So by the use of spiritual mind treatment, which we just did for abundance, for joy, for love, for peace, we want to move in this direction from the level of the subjective mind, which is not necessarily ego. This ego doesn't have to exist at this level. We don't need that. We can have a view of the subjective self that mirrors more the conscious mind. We can become mindful. We can become mindful of our energy and have the intention of moving up the scale from contentment to joy, in our daily practice. And so that's really what I wanted to talk to you about, and myself. Let me read something that came up today. It's interesting that I study what's called the Course in Miracles, and the second part of today's lesson. There's 365 lessons, and they correspond one per day. That's the fastest you can do the course. It takes 1 year to go through it. But the second part of today's lesson says, we teach today what we would learn, and that alone. And so our learning goal becomes an unconflicted one and possible of easy reach and quick accomplishment. How gladly does the Holy Spirit come to rescue us from hell when we allow his teaching to persuade the world through us to seek and find the easy path to God. And so, I could probably keep talking, but I sense that really what I had to say to you today is finished, and so I'm just going to stop there. I didn't even start my clock. I was supposed to talk for 25 minutes. I don't know if I talked for 5 or 10. But I sense that the message that I needed to give you has been given. And I, bless your hearts. You help me as much as I help you. There's one thing that comes to mind. I study a channel called Erin Galito. She channels Jesus, and she says, "Be the 100th monkey." And if you know what the 100th monkey is, the 100th monkey is the one that gets it, and then the whole world gets it through you. So when 100 monkeys learn a certain trick, suddenly they all know it. So if you're the 100th monkey, may the blessing in your heart emanate to all the hearts that are in this world with us and beyond. So thank you very much.